I've done a little milk experiment for you. I have boiled a cup of milk long and hard at a high temperature, and you're going to see in this experiment what happens to milk. Then you will apply this knowledge in all of the recipes that you use in lab today. Basically what happens is I'm going to get something that forms on the top. You guys know the name of this. This is milk scum. And that's the proteins in the milk that have gone to the top and they've coagulated. Then in the bottom of the pan, I'm going to dump off the milk. And in the bottom of the pan, we have the milk sugars. And the milk sugars in the bottom of the pan are what have a tendency to scorch in any recipe that you're using with milk. So make sure that you stir constantly and cook with a low temperature. Today in lab, you guys will probably be using a fondue pot. This is the one that we have in lab. It is completely submersible in water once you take the cord out and the controls off, and so you can wash the pot in water when you're done. Make sure that you watch the temperature so that you don't overheat the fondue. It should be done right at the end so that it's at its very, very best presentation. When you're making the white sauces, make sure that you're using a candy paddle for the soups so that you don't get any scorching on the bottom so that it cooks uniformly. You also need to watch the consistency of the soups. They should not be too thick, and if they are a little bit thick at serve time, just add a little bit of water. When you're making salads, oftentimes the things that come to you at your produce department are dehydrated because of shipping. So what you can do is rehydrate produce. What I've done here is I've cut up all of the ingredients for the salad. I've broken the lettuce up. I've got the carrots in here. I have the green onions in here, the celery in here. And as I washed all of this, I just left all of the water on it. Then I refrigerated it overnight so that it could rehydrate with the water that's standing on the produce. Then all you need to do is spin any excess water off before serving, and then I'm going to show you how to toss it in a bag with the dressing and the cranberries that are in this recipe. When the salad has been completely spun dry and no more water spins off of it, we can toss the salad. And I think that an easy way to do that is in a food-safe plastic bag. I will just take the crisp lettuce and put it into the food-safe bag, and then I will add the last of the ingredients, and I will do the tossing in the bag. This makes it really easy. We have some apples that still need to be added. I have some cranberries that need to be added, and I'm even going to put the dressing in right now from the recipe. Just going to add that. Can you see how easy this would be for a ward party if you had to make a great big salad? Just put it all in the bag, and then close the bag, and then you'll toss the salad in the bag and put it in a serving dish. How easy is that? Then you just need to take some scissors and cut off the top of the bag and pour your salad that is all tossed and dressed into your serving bowl, and that's ready to serve. In this recipe, there are sugared nuts that go on top of the salad. So I'm going to show you how to caramelize sugar. You put the sugar in the pan. You spread the sugar evenly in the bottom of a saute pan, and then just make sure that it's nice and even, and then just begin to watch for the sugar to melt. As that sugar begins to melt, you will see some places that are going to look caramelized. The longer that you can wait before stirring it and letting it melt all the way along the bottom of the pan, the easier it's going to be in the long run. I have some pre-chopped pecans that I'm going to put in here when it's ready, but as you can see, it's starting to melt and the sugar is starting to caramelize. You'll be able to see the hot spots on your stovetop, so you can just gently pull those aside and wait for that caramelization to happen to all of the sugar, and then you'll stir it together very quickly. You'll add the nuts very quickly, and then put it onto a greased plate or a greased cookie sheet lined with foil. I have a greased jelly roll pan that has been lined with foil and greased. You can see the color change. As that color changes and the sugar melts, I'm going to start to stir it. You don't want it to get too dark. But this caramelization process is good for a lot of different applications. So I'm stirring in the sugar, Once it's all melted, immediately turn the heat off, add the chopped nuts, stir those in to coat them, and then immediately take them off the heat and put them into a pan. When it has cooled, you can break it apart with your fingers, and then that is what you serve on top of the salad. For the shortbread logs today, make sure that you cook them until they're just barely golden brown. This one is correct, this one is incorrect. When you dip the shortbread logs, you're going to make sure that the frosting is dippable. The recipe has you use chopped nuts. Just use your little nut chopper, and then in recipes, make sure you read the recipes. If it calls for nuts chopped, you measure the quantity of nuts, then chop them. If it says chopped nuts, then you chop them first and then measure the quantity. So this is what our chopped almonds look like. They're very finely chopped, and I'm going to just dip the end of the shortbread log, just the top, in the frosting, and then I'll roll it in the chopped nuts. And that's the process for the shortbread log frosting. Now, the food coloring that we used for the shortbread logs is a paste. And to use the paste, what you're going to do is get a toothpick, and you dip the toothpick in the food coloring paste, and then when you're mixing the frosting, you just draw that right through the frosting. We want a light pink frosting for today's shortbread logs, not a chemical spill pink. You need to know a little bit about terminology of almonds. This is slivered almonds, this is sliced almonds, this is raw almonds, and these are blanched almonds. You can blanch almonds at home just by taking raw almonds, boiling them in water, and then putting them under cold water. And after you do that, the peel will just come right off, and you have the blanched almonds. When you begin the pizza, what you're going to do is get a piece of parchment paper, put it under your pizza stone, and trace it so that you have a piece of parchment paper the size of your pizza stone. Then you'll place that parchment paper on your pizza peel. This is called a pizza peel. It's only used for transferring the pizza onto the hot pizza stone. So we'll put the pizza stone in the oven to preheat while we're making the pizza. You're going to take the pizza dough and roll it out as big as your parchment paper. You'll take some cornmeal, and you'll sprinkle an ample amount of cornmeal on the parchment paper that is on the pizza peel. Then you'll transfer the dough over to the parchment, and then you'll assemble your pizza. You can stretch the dough by rolling it, as I have done, or you can lift and toss that dough to stretch it to the size that you want for your pizza. You just transfer it now to the pizza peel that is lined with the parchment paper, and then you can make a crust. I'm going to call this a rustic crust and not worry too much about what it looks like. I'll just make an edge all the way around that, and then we'll put our pizza sauce and toppings on, and we'll transfer this to the oven. Now we're just going to put the pizza together. I'll put the pizza sauce on, and then you can decide what you want for the toppings. The toppings will all be on the cart. You guys will be making 2 pizzas, so you could make 2 different pizzas, or you could do 4 halves with the different ingredients that we have. For our pizza here, we're going to do some olives. We're going to do some pineapple, and we will do some Canadian bacon and pepperoni on our pizza. All we'll do now, after we get this all put together, is slide it into the oven on the hot pizza stone and wait for it to bake. When you're ready to make the crackers, we use the pasta attachments in the KitchenAid mixer. In the box, you will find a wide noodle roller that has wide places where it's going to cut the noodles. There's also a spaghetti cutter. We don't ever use this in lab, but it is in the box. And then there is the pasta roller, and that's what we will be using today to make the crackers. As I turn this dial right here, you'll notice that the rollers get closer together and farther apart. And our objective with the crackers is to roll it through just enough times so that we'll get the right thickness of crackers. When you're ready to roll them out, make sure that you've divided the dough into 3 sections. You'll need a little bit of flour on the top and on the bottom so that it doesn't stick to your roller. And you're going to work these through in sets so that the gluten has time to relax. So pat it to about 1/4 of an inch of thickness, turn on your mixer, and then roll that dough through. I'll now change it to a number 1. It was just a little bit farther apart than the 1 to begin with. And then I'll put it on a 2. After I've rolled it on a number 2 on a floured surface, I'm going to lay this out flat, and then using the decorative zigzag tool for cutting pastry, I'm going to cut this into 2-inch squares to make the crackers. Then I'll top them with the ingredients that are listed in your recipe and bake them on cooling racks so that they're nice and crispy. Make sure that you set your oven on convection bake so that they'll be nice and crispy. This is what your crackers will look like when you've cut them with the little zigzag cutting tool. After you've cut them into squares, you can go ahead and put the toppings on. You're going to brush it with melted butter, and then you can choose which topping you want to put on. There's poppy seeds, sesame seeds, and kosher salt. We'll do some poppy seed, some salt combination, and some sesame seeds. And then you're going to just pat those additions down on the top so that it stays in place for baking, and you'll put it on a cooling rack for baking. Just line all those up, and those are ready to bake. They'll be nice and crispy.